I bet you didn't know running a Bitcoin node could be this simple. Let's dive in. Welcome to the 39th Bitcoin Ljubljana meetup. Today we're exploring how to run your own Bitcoin node and server with Start9's Matt Hill. Discover the power of digital sovereignty and how Start9's embassy makes it easy and secure. Stay tuned to learn more about taking control of your digital future.
StarOS is something of a novel operating system. There really hasn't been much like it in the past. The main reason is because most people do not want to run a server. They do not see the reason to run a server. Instead, they connect their client devices, like their laptop and cell phones, to servers that are owned and operated by other people, by third parties, namely Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Oracle, and every app that you install on your phone or computer automatically connects to a server that is owned and operated by the company that produced the app, which means all of your digital life and interactions are flowing through and being stored on third-party servers that you do not own or control in any way. The problem with this is fourfold. Number one is invasion of privacy and surveillance. So when you use somebody else's server for your computing needs, which you do, which we all do in many ways, everything you do is visible to that party and stored forever. Every button you push, every message you send, every photo you take, everything is processed through and stored on the third-party server that you used to do the activity. Number two is censorship. When you use somebody else's computer, they can cut you off. It's their house, their rules. You agree to the terms and conditions, you check the box, and if you violate the terms, you are deplatformed. There are other means of censorship as well besides deplatforming, such as algorithmic amplification or suppression of certain messages. If a local government decides that they want to promote a certain idea, they can simply pay their local social media provider, Facebook, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, you name it, to amplify the message that they want and to ghost shadow ban or suppress the message that they don't want. And very few people can even detect that this is happening because it is so subtle. It's not deplatforming, it's just amplification and suppression. And this is very common practice in 2025. Problem number three is that when you use somebody else's server for your needs, you have to pay them. They are a business, they are providing a service, and you have to pay them for this service. If you are not paying them with money, you are paying them with data. And then they can use, collect, and sell that data to many, many different parties for the sake of advertising to you across different platforms. Whether you like this or don't like it, it doesn't matter. It is a form of compensation. You are paying them either with your money or with your data, and in most cases, you are paying them with both. So it is economically inefficient, expensive to have third parties intermediating everybody's digital communications. The fourth problem is that these servers, because they store everybody's data, are attractive targets for cyber warfare. They are attractive targets for hackers. And any server that is worth hacking will eventually be hacked. And this is not some failure of encryption or application security. This is because there is always one or more humans who have the keys to those servers. And so to hack a server, all you have to do is hack a human, which is actually not very difficult to do. And so any server worth hacking will eventually be hacked because the people who possess the keys can be socially engineered. And so if your information is on that server, You as an individual or as a business have also been hacked because your information was on the server. The hackers were not after you. They were not attacking you. You are insignificant. You're too small to attack and to hack. But if your information is on a server that has everyone's information, then suddenly your identity is now at risk. Your photos have been leaked. Your financial information has been leaked, even though you weren't the target. So those 4 problems: invasion of privacy, censorship, cost, and counterparty risk of cybersecurity are the 4 reasons why it is a very bad idea for everyone on Earth to be using the same servers for all of their digital life. Unfortunately, this is the status quo. The dominant form of computing on the planet is cloud computing, and it is exactly the paradigm that I just described, which is me, you, and everyone else using remote controls to operate somebody else's server that we do not own or control. Okay, what does this have to do with Bitcoin? So Bitcoin, as we know, was a revolution in decentralized technology. It is the most decentralized network, digital network, that has ever existed. Bitcoin's decentralization relies in large part on node operatorship, people running their own nodes. And in order to run a node, you need to run a server, right? A node is a piece of software that runs on a server. Could you run a node on your laptop? Yes. But in that case, your laptop is a server. It is no longer a client device, right? Computers are just computers. Cell phones, laptops, desktops, mini PCs, they're all just computers. What you use them for determines whether they are a client device or a server device. Servers are computers that run all the time, all day, every day. They're never designed to be turned off. They are never designed to be disconnected from the internet. Servers are connected, always on, always reachable, always running devices. Clients are computers that are designed to be closed, turned off, taken in the car, drive through the mountains, no more service. These are client devices, okay? So if you are running a Bitcoin node on your laptop, then your laptop is functioning as a server. And if you turn it off, it's not a very good server because nobody can reach your node anymore, including you. So we advocate for, and as general practice in the world, to have dedicated devices for servers. You shouldn't use a laptop as a server. You shouldn't use a cell phone as a server because these devices are designed and expected to be turned off and disconnected from networks. So you should get a device that can serve as a dedicated, always on, always connected server. Now that could be an old laptop. You take an old laptop and turn it into a server and never turn it off again. It's a good server. That's fine. Okay, so Bitcoin's decentralization is in large part dependent on many people around the world running and using their own nodes. In order to run a node, you need to download and install the Bitcoin software and run it, hopefully, all the time, which means you need a server. And so what we have done at Start9 and with StartOS is built an operating system that makes it easy for you to run a server. Then you can download and install Bitcoin and run it on that server very easily. No big deal. You can also download and install a Lightning node, LND or Core Lightning, and run your own Lightning node, which is even more important than running your own Bitcoin node if you are going to use the Lightning Network. Because if you are not running your own Lightning node, then you are physically storing your money on somebody else's computer, which means it is custodial and can therefore be frozen or stolen. You can also run other applications on your server, like cloud data storage. So if you want to store your sensitive files or photos um, on a private cloud that you and you alone can access from anywhere, from your phone or from your laptop, just like you would Dropbox or Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive, you can on your own server run your own private cloud server and use it in exactly the same way that you would use iCloud, except in this case, there is no Apple, there is no Google, there is no third party who can even see the files, who even know that they exist, and they definitely do not have the ability to, analyze them or make copies of them because they don't even know that the files exist. These files exist on your server and only on your server, and you and only you know that they exist. And you can share them with friends and family or coworkers by giving them access to your server in the same way that you would share a file on Google Drive or iCloud. You can also run your own messaging servers. So, for example, when I text message my friends and family, those messages go through my server. I do not use things like WhatsApp and Telegram. I mean, I do use Telegram from time to time if somebody insists on using that. But most of my conversations go through my own server in my own home, fully encrypted end to end and onion routed over the darknet by default. And the experience is the same as using Telegram or WhatsApp. I type a message and hit send, and the person receives that message and can reply. I can form groups with friends, family, coworkers, and we can all message together. And the entire message history, every message that's ever sent and stored, is processed through and stored on a server in my house. There is no third party whatsoever. Nobody, and I mean nobody, has any idea that this conversation is taking place, let alone the ability to inspect it, censor it, or use it against me in any way. The conversation is absolutely invisible and can be had from any point on Earth to any other point on Earth without any corporation, government, or security agency even knowing that the conversation exists. When you run your own server that runs StartOS, achieving this level of privacy and anonymity is easy. It is a couple of buttons, no different than installing an app, and then you start messaging. This is provably more secure than something like Signal. It is by far more anonymous than something like Signal, which is not anonymous at all. Signal knows who you are, who you're talking to, when you talk to them. They know the approximate length of the messages. They pretty much know where you are on Earth. And so it is highly de-anonymized. Whereas what I'm describing, there is nobody to know anything at all. So when you run your own server, you can achieve a degree of not only privacy, but what we like to call sovereignty in the digital realm that matches the rest of human history, right? For most of human history, I could sit down with somebody and have a conversation with them. I could meet them somewhere and have a conversation. And I can still do that today. And unless we have these little tracking devices in our pocket, me and that person can be absolutely sure that nobody can hear the conversation, that the conversation exists between me and you. That if I am talking with my wife in our home, that is us talking, that nobody can see it, nobody can hear it, nobody can use it, nobody even knows that we're talking. And that has been, until now, impossible to replicate in the digital world. It is impossible for me to talk to somebody on the other side of the world in such a way that nobody knows the conversation is taking place. Until now, it is possible. but it requires you to run your own server. That is the only way to achieve something like that. If you download an app on your phone and use it to text, you have failed. That is not going to work. The only way to achieve privacy, absolute privacy, security, and sovereignty in the digital realm, including the ability to run a Bitcoin node and a Lightning node and transact with impunity, to be able to send and receive money to anyone, from anyone, anywhere in the world, with nobody knowing that the transaction even took place, the only way to accomplish that is to run your own server. For example, if I download a great open source Bitcoin wallet, we'll call it Green, which is what I personally like to use on my mobile device. So I download Blockstream Green wallet, and I use that wallet to transact with someone, anyone. I send them a transaction, they send me a Bitcoin transaction. Blockstream, the company, knows that I did that. Forget about on-chain privacy, forget about mixing and all of that. Blockstream, the company, knows that I sent and received money, and they know who I sent it to and when I received it, and they know where, when it was transacted, who it was transacted to. They can do metadata analysis. Now, I'm not saying Blockstream does this. What I'm saying is that they can do it. And the fact that they can do it means that they must do it, because they will be coerced into doing it by any authority that has the power to do so. So no matter how private Bitcoin gets at the base layer, no matter how careful you are about UTXO management, VPN usage, no matter how careful you are on all of these fronts, if you are not running your own node on your own server, somebody somewhere knows what you're doing, and they can be forced to collect and provide that information on demand, and they will be. So the only path to being a digital sovereign for now and forever, this will never change, this is a fundamental computer architecture problem, is to run your own server and self-host your own software, including Bitcoin nodes, Lightning nodes, data servers, messaging servers, password servers, blogs, everything. And until now, that has been basically impossible for somebody to do. It required such an incredible amount of technical expertise and time that nobody would do it. And nobody has. Nobody runs their own server and runs all the things I just described. Probably nobody even in the room right now. And this would be the most likely group of people to do that. And I guarantee you that the vast majority of you, for all of your computing needs, are using third-party servers. I hope I'm wrong. And that's because it's obscure, difficult, and time-consuming. What I do, is we built an operating system that makes it non-technical and not time-consuming. It's not perfect. We still have a long way to go, but it works pretty well. And a lot of people use it and have a lot of success doing the things that I describe. Even people who really don't know what they're doing. We do actually cater to a normal person. We claim that in order to effectively use StartOS, that's the name of our operating system, to use StartOS to run your own server, you must be computer literate. That's the word that we like to use, computer literate. And what I mean by that is that you feel comfortable going into the settings menu, not the desktop, not an app, but the settings menu of your iOS, Android, Mac OS, or Windows computer and making changes. So if you can go into the settings menu and make changes and not freak out and feel confident that you know what you're doing, then you can use our operating system. That's basically what it is changing settings. And if you can do that, then you can run your own server and you can totally opt out of the entire technocracy of Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and the governments that they are beholden to. You can just walk away and say, no more. I'll do it myself. And it's free forever because nobody can charge you. You wouldn't charge yourself. That doesn't make sense. So you are the owner of the server. You get to use it for free forever. And so do your friends and family. So you never pay monthly subscriptions again. Your data never leaks again. Hackers, the next time hackers break into, a Facebook server and steal all the data, I shouldn't say Facebook because that's social media. It's a little different. But, the next time Telegram gets hacked, you will just sip your coffee and go about your day because it won't affect you. Okay. It's kind of my high level explanation of what we do and what sovereign computing is and why a Bitcoiner should care. So I'm happy to answer any questions or expand on anything.
Thanks, Matt. Do you see us? Do you see the picture of the room?
I do. Yeah.
Good. Are there any questions for Matt?
Hi. I would like to ask, can we set up Start9 on a typical PC?
Yes. Start9 is compatible with any x86 or ARM architecture. I shouldn't say any. It will not run natively on Apple Silicon. However, you can run it in a virtual machine on an Apple Silicon device. Otherwise, you can install Start9 on any traditional x86 computer. That means old Mac Minis, MacBook Pros, Windows machines. Any machine that runs Windows will run Start9. Any machine that runs Linux will run Start9 because Start9 is a Linux distro. It is a flavor of Linux.
Any other question?
Good. I would like to also ask backups. So right now I'm having an Umbrel at home.
Yeah.
And I'm having Nextcloud edit. I set up, let's say, the context and the calendar also. And I'm struggling with guides on how to get these things back up. So as a note, I really don't need a lot to back up. So I'm totally fine if I'm having a new install and making the whole blockchain download again, and that's it. But what about other apps?
Yeah. So when you decide to take responsibility over your data, when you run a personal server, something like Nextcloud, right? It is very, very important to make regular backups. Nobody will save you if your server dies or there's a fire or flood or just the SSD is corrupted or dies. Your data is gone forever. And that means you must make backups. Umbrel doesn't offer a feature for making backups. It's not a serious project. Umbrel is a toy. It's very flashy, very colorful. They're very good at design over there, good marketing people, but it's not a serious project. Fundamental features like backups are not even part of the experience. On Start9, to make a backup, you go into the settings menu and click Create Backup, and then you select the services that you want to back up, like Nextcloud. And then you can either plug in a drive, a physical drive into your Start9 server and create an encrypted backup to that drive. They're always encrypted by default with your password. Or you can create a backup over the air to another computer on the same network. So if you have a desktop or a laptop or a Synology NAS or a True NAS, you can create a backup over the air to that device on your network. It's just a matter of going into your settings, clicking Create Backup, selecting Nextcloud, and clicking Backup, and then it's completely backed up. It does differential backups, so they're very efficient. So if you create Nextcloud Backup today, and then you create another Nextcloud Backup tomorrow, it will only back up the new data. So you don't have to wait hours for all the data to back up. It will only create incremental backups of new data that has been added since the last backup. So the latest backup will always be the latest state. In a future version of Start9, something we are already working on, you will be able to schedule backups just like you schedule calendar events, and you can schedule them to go to any remote location. So you could create encrypted backups to another StartOS server in another location. You can create encrypted backups to Google Drive, Dropbox. We think this is actually a good use for these things, for these cloud servers, is to take your encrypted garbage and just dump it on their server. And you can create as many of these to as many different locations as you want automatically on a schedule. And you can even choose which services get backed up where. So you could say every hour, I want my Nextcloud backed up to that server. And only once a day, I want my Lightning node backed up to that server, and whatever you want. It's very, very easy to do. And then they just are done. Now, like I said, that is not available yet. You can create backups today, but you have to click create backup. In the future, it'll be automatic.
Thank you, Matt. That's very promising. Exceptionally, I also have TrueNAS at home 2 times. So making a backup on the TrueNAS will be really a nice feature for me. I think I'm also speaking on behalf of all. If I ask, can you show us which services Start9 offers? Which applications or services are on Start9, StartOS?
Yeah, sure. I could share my screen and do it. Let's see if this works. Yeah, you can see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is our main registry. Start9 has 2 registries. So we call this the marketplace. It's at marketplace.start9.com. And within the marketplace, there are different registries. This is the Start9 registry. And any service listed on the Start9 registry is personally inspected, tested, and supported by Start9, the team, the company. We officially recommend, inspect, test, and support all of these services. Meaning if you need help with them, you can get a one-on-one help from somebody on our team instantly. Our response time over the last 4 years to any customer inquiry is 3 minutes. So you get a real human in under 3 minutes if you have any questions about any of these services. And we are experts in all of them. So some of the most popular ones, I'm sure you can guess, are Nextcloud, Bitcoin. People, love running Lightning nodes. So we have LND, we have Core Lightning. You can run a Nostr relay. We have Nostr relay, Nostr client in Nostrudel. Git is for hosting your own code repositories. Cirx is a search engine that is more anonymous than using something like, Google or Bing or something like that. It actually uses Google and Bing under the hood, but hides your metadata for those requests. FreeGPT-2 is a large language model GUI and server, so you can run your own AI LLMs on your own server. You can ask them questions, and none of those requests ever leave your house, so you get to talk to your own private AI. AlbiHub is a good Lightning wrapper and wallet. RoboSats is a decentralized Bitcoin exchange. Vault Warden might be the most important thing we have on here. This is password management. This allows you to store your passwords on your own server. And then as you go around the internet, you can autofill your usernames, emails, and passwords such that all of your logins have long, complex passwords, but you don't need to memorize any of them or write them down. And they are all stored very safely on your own server so that there's nobody to get hacked and you lose access to everything. SimpleX is my favorite messaging application. This is what I use for my own personal and group text messaging in my family and friend circles. I run a simple X server. Everyone connects to it, and all of our conversations are perfectly private and self-hosted. Ride the Lightning is a good lightning management tool. File browser is like Dropbox, very simple. It's a much lighter Nextcloud. So Nextcloud is a huge, wonderful service, maybe one of the best pieces of open source software in the whole world, alongside Bitcoin. File browser is much smaller, much simpler. It's just for storing files. Mempool space, I'm sure most people know, is a way to visualize the blockchain from your own server and also the Lightning Network. Ghost is if you want to host your own blog from your own server and not have to pay, a certain amount of money per month for somebody else to host your blog. Start9 Pages is a way to host any website from your server. Yeah, that's a good overview. Then if you switch registries, you can go to the community registry. This registry is for all the services that Start9 does not officially support. I wonder, hold on. I think there might be a bug on our website here, because Bitcoin should not be on the community registry. That's a mistake. That's just a bug.
The test one.
It's on both registries because it's so good. Yeah, it's just a mistake. But anyway, it's these are all the services that we don't officially support. And that doesn't mean we don't like them. It doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means that for us to support a service, a lot of things have to be true, right? So, for example, we love Bisq and Sparrow. I personally love both of these, but we don't have time as a team to understand and support everything. Because if somebody comes in and asks us a question about Bisq, I don't have the expertise personally or somebody on the team to answer all those questions. And so for something like Bisq, we don't support it simply because we don't have infinite money and I can't hire more people to man our support channels. So some of these things are in here just because we don't have the bandwidth or the time. Some things are in here because it doesn't align with Start9's principles and brand. So some things are in here just because it's like, not something we want to get behind. And then some of them are in here because they're not very good. Like they don't work very well. So like Spectre, for example, is here. It's available, but you probably shouldn't use it. It doesn't work very well. It's not good software. So that's why it's on the community registry. So anyway, things are here for different reasons. And we have when you install from your server, there's a warning at the top of the screen up here that says, warning, these services are not officially supported by Start9. You install at your own risk. And if you're on our registry, the message is, this is a safe place. You can install these things. The Start9 team vouches for them, recommends them, and supports them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you very much. Matt, maybe you should rate the apps or add user rating. Another question from a guy here.
That's hard to do because it's hard to protect against Sybil attacks. Okay. Right. We would need to authenticate people in order to prevent them from leaving, 500 reviews for one service, for example. And that's a hard problem to solve because we don't want to be that kind of company. We don't know anything about our users. Nothing, absolutely nothing. If somebody downloads StartOS and installs it on their server and then uses it in every way, I don't know they exist. I have no idea this person exists. I know nothing. We don't know how many people use our system. We have no way of knowing. And I like it that way.
Thank you. We have another question.
One more question. Two more questions, actually. So the first one was, you mentioned you also support ARM CPUs. Does that include Raspberry Pi?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Okay. And
so we don't recommend it. Let me expand on that a little bit. We have the Raspberry Pi is is a quirky project. It's not just ARM. The Raspberry Pi OS, right, the operating system needed for the Pi, is very specific. And so we have builds specifically for the Raspberry Pi. So if you go to our GitHub and you look at the binaries that we produce, we have a x86, ARM, and Raspberry Pi. Raspberry Pi is special. We do not recommend using the Raspberry Pi 4 for Bitcoin or any Bitcoin related activities because it simply can't handle it. The disk IO, we have many updates about this. If you look on our blog and stuff, we've talked about this extensively. Do not use a Raspberry Pi 4 for Bitcoin. You're going to have a very bad time. It's not going to work. Things are going to break. 5 years ago, you could, but now Bitcoin does a lot more during IBD and ongoing where it doesn't work anymore. It's just not a powerful enough computer. The disk IO is not fast enough. However, the Raspberry Pi 5, you can use the M.2 NVMe SSD if you buy the extension. And so the Raspberry Pi 5 is a much more powerful device and has much faster disk IO. And so it can handle Bitcoin just fine. However, we do not yet have a build for the Raspberry Pi 5. We haven't had the time to produce that yet, and it's not a high priority, but it is coming. We will have a build for the Raspberry Pi 5 when the next version of StartOS is released. Okay, go on.
Awesome, thanks. And the second question was, so I checked that StartOS is free and open source, right?
Correct.
So how do you make revenue then?
We sell servers with StartOS pre-installed, and we sell support. We support both StartOS and all of the services on the Start9 registry. So in order to run an open source operating system, you need a computer. And yes, some people have a spare computer laying around that has enough power to effectively run a server. And I encourage those people to download StartOS for free and flash it onto their computer and run it. And maybe say thank you on Nostr or X to Start9 for making it, because that is all we ask for, is that somebody says, hey, I did it and this is really cool. And because it helps us, it helps our awareness. But most people do not have a spare computer laying around that is good enough to run StartOS and a server effectively. And so they need to buy a computer. Okay, so you have to buy a computer. Why not buy it from us? We don't gouge on price, right? We don't mark up computers to an absurd amount. And when you buy from us, when somebody buys from us, you are helping the continued development of the operating system that you want to use. And so it makes sense. It functions kind of as a donation, but you have to buy a computer anyway. So why not give the money to the company that's building the software as opposed to, some random mini PC company on the other side of the world. So, secondly, when you buy a server from us, it comes with a lifetime membership to our support server. Okay, you get a lifetime membership and access to our support server, which is a private, meaning it is gated access. You need a code to get in, and very safe place for people to come and get help from our team. And it is staffed 17 hours a day right now by somebody. And like I said, people get answers in less than 3 minutes to their questions. And there are no scammers. There's no spam or scammers like there is on Telegram, because it is a gated, private, paid server where all of our customers can come and get help from each other and from our team. If you do build your own server, if you DIY, you can purchase access to the support server, but it's $300. So in most cases, it's actually cheaper for you to buy a server from us than to build your own server and buy support. If you don't need a server or support, then DIY and just give us a shout out on X or throw us a donation if you want. No big deal.
So for your information, we have a server here. If you want to look, it looks like Intel NUC. If you're familiar with the form factor, just it's aluminum, and it's not as shitty as latest Intel NUC, which are plastic. So if somebody wants to take a look.
This is which model?
That one is our server pure device. We have two servers. We have a server 1 and a server pure. The main difference between these is that the server pure, as the name indicates, is pure. There is no closed source software anywhere on that device. And I don't just mean Start9, I mean the firmware. Okay, so every computer that you own, your laptop, your desktop, your mini PC, your cell phones, all of them have gigantic blobs of closed source software installed on them that you have no idea what they're doing. Okay, your computer could be tracking every single keystroke and saving it to a database, saving it under to a file, such that if your computer was ever seized, somebody could see every keystroke you've ever put into the computer. I'm not saying that your computer is doing that. What I'm saying is that you have no way of knowing if your computer is doing that, because every computer on Earth has closed source software installed on it, except for that one and a couple of others. And to do that is very difficult. It's very hard to produce a computer that has no closed source software on it, even in firmware, no closed source firmware. And so that's why it is a little bit more expensive, is because it took a lot of work to be able to do that. It's not because it's more powerful.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Hello. I have a question regarding backups, because backups are always a pain. You said you can back up to hard drive or over the air, but do you maybe plan or already have the option, like if I buy two Start9s, that they would mirror in a way, maybe not the whole Bitcoin blockchain, just this like Nextcloud, this kind of stuff. So you have like a hot spare backup that you can, if the first one dies, you immediately have, because restoring is also like a pain. I don't know if you could maybe also quickly show how does the encrypted backup restore take place. You probably need to do what? I mean, can maybe just those two things if you have a plan.
So what you are asking is a problem that Silicon Valley tech companies have been trying to improve for decades, right? It is a fundamentally hard problem to have not only backups, but fail safes and redundancies. You're talking about what's called load balancing, horizontal scaling. So where you have, 3 servers that are all kind of interchangeable, right? Like server A is doing some work and then it dies and server B just kind of picks up. That is very, very hard to do because it requires all of these servers to be completely in sync with each other, right? And at any given moment, even if they are constantly syncing, at any given moment, one could have...
Can I just... I was just thinking, like you said before, so you have a schedule, let's say, every day at 12, backup. So, just so you have a running Start9 that's almost the latest.
Almost right.
So just that kind of like syncing thing. I know what you're talking about, so not this extreme enterprise grade syncing real time, just so you don't have to, so you're not offline, because restoring also takes time, right?
Yes.
I mean, you have to get a new one, restore if it burns, let's say it just catches fire, right? So you have to...
So I'll tell you where we're going with it, okay? So in a future release, not the next version, but the one after is where it's scheduled for. You will be able to create automatic remote backups to any destination. One of the primary destinations that we are going to support and encourage is another Start9 server, right? That makes sense. Obviously, these servers will have to have a lot more capacity, right? So if you have, say, 2 terabytes of data on a server, you actually need 4 terabytes, right? So let's say you have 2 servers. Each one has 2 terabytes of data. Well, what it means is that both of those servers each need to have 4 terabytes of space, because if they're backing each other up, at any given moment, This server has 4 terabytes of data, which is 2 of its data and 2 of backup. This one has 2 of its data and 2 of backup. And so if either one dies, the other one can restore the parts that the other server was using very quickly. The restoration process for StartOS, if you want to restore the entire server, okay, like this whole server died, and you're not just looking to restore Nextcloud or a Lightning node, but you want to restore the entire server, that is done during initial setup. So you have a fresh instance of StartOS, you click setup, and one of the choices at the beginning is restore from backup, right? Recover a whole server. If you click that, then you can simply plug in the drive that contains the encrypted backup, and it will create a fresh server with that backup as its starting state, its starting data, including all the installed services and everything. It'll be right where you left it when you made the last backup. If you are only restoring a single service, right? So let's say I have server A and it's running Nextcloud and it dies. And I have another server that's already running over here. I don't need to restore the entire server A. I can just go over to server B and plug in the drive that contains the Nextcloud backup and go install Nextcloud and then click restore from backup, and it will actually install Nextcloud on server B with the data that came from server A. So if you're just looking to restore a single service or even multiple services, you don't have to spin up a new server. You could already have a server running and just restore the services that you need on the backup server. And depending on how much data there is, it could take anywhere from 5 seconds to 5 hours, right? If you're restoring 3 terabytes of encrypted data on Nextcloud, it's going to take a few hours to restore that server. But if you're just restoring a Lightning node, it should take 10 seconds or less. Secondly, let's say that server A dies because the motherboard short circuits or because there's a flood or what. So long as the drive itself, the SSD, is not damaged or corrupted, you don't even need to restore from backup. You can just take the SSD, put it into a different computer, and turn it on, and it just is server A now, right? Like nothing in the computer matters except for the SSD. The SSD stores the operating system, all the data. The rest is just a computer. Everything that makes it server A, all the data is on that SSD. And so instead of restoring from backup, you can just move the SSD to another computer and turn it on. And now it's your old server. So there's a variety of options. We are going to automate some of this, but it's also very delicate because you don't want a situation where, for example, you have LND, a Lightning node running on server A, and then server B detects some kind of a issue and automatically restores the Lightning node static channel backup, and suddenly your channels start closing or money starts getting, stolen because you don't have a watchtower. Like there's danger in creating multiple copies of data and having any kind of automation about how it spins up, because you could end up with 2 things competing against each other, which in the worst case scenario could lead to loss of money. So anyway, it's a hard problem. We think about it a lot and we have some really good solutions in the pipeline, including what you described as enterprise grade horizontal scaling stuff. We are going to support that. It's just a longer term, feature. Hopefully that answered your question.
Thanks, Matt. Any other question? I think you ran out of the time. We ran out of the questions. Thank
Perfect
you.
timing.
Let me
Yeah.
show myself. So thank you for your extensive presentation. Thank you for extensive answers. And till the next time.
You're welcome. Okay. Thanks everybody for having me. Had a great time. Bye now.
Yeah.